corruption scandal swirling around him. Chris has that.
Hey, I'm Chris CUOMO. Thank you for joining me here at NewsNation, and thank you very much for the well-wishing on our very bittersweet journey of taking our only son off to university. We just landed. I wasn't supposed to work, but I had to. I had to come make my witness because on the eve of the debate, we have a problem that we just have to stop in its tracks before tomorrow night, okay? Tomorrow night cannot be a stupid fest about whether Haitian migrants are eating dogs in Springfield, Ohio, okay? And it's not just the ugly and obvious nature of what that's about, right? That is about pushing prejudice. That's all it's about. That's what it's always been about, okay? My beef is what's being ignored about Springfield, Ohio, that absolutely demands attention and isn't getting it until now. And we in the media, I'm not a big one for criticizing the media. It's weird because I'm in it, but you got to put some stink on us here. The media just adding a question mark, Haitian migrants eating pets? Do they have any proof, or they just want the clickbait? It's a rhetorical question. They just want the clickbait. They put the question mark at the end of it, right? So it seems like they're still doing their job. It's just complete BS. And that headline, "Are Haitian migrants eating dogs?" is exactly what's wrong with our poison politics. And again, my gripe is not just about that. We're talking about the right place, but for the wrong and bad reason. And I have no problem with criticizing the immigration system. We do it on this show all the time. It is broken. Or the decision to give 100,000 or whatever number the real number is of Haitian refugees TPS, temporary protected status. Harris should explain why this is just. Harris should explain what her policy is that's reflected by these years of movement. Oh, yeah, that's right. The Haitians didn't all just come now. Trump's people are just using it to make hay right now because it's bad for Harris. And we need rule changes for asylum. We need a lot more resources to adjudicate claims, to stop people illegally entering, to hold people and deport people. And I am convinced that none of that is going to happen because both sides prefer the problems that go with the politics of the border better than actually fixing it. Otherwise, I can't explain why Biden and the Democrats let it fester for years. Can you? If it matters, why? Why'd they let it get worse and worse? Why'd they wait till the end to try to get a deal? And if I'm wrong, then why did the GOP cave to Trump, who kept them from doing a deal so he could campaign on the problem? I mean, if either side wanted to get this done, would we be here? No. I mean, the case is clear. It's not even a close call. And we all know it, which is why there's shame on all of us for entertaining this BS pet poaching as a legitimate question. I mean, just think about it. One person says, no proof. And how does it get spread? How do you think? The right fringe. No wonder the Russians targeted them to spread disinformation. What's disinformation? Deliberately false stuff to spread dissent. They love to do it on their own. That's why they were an easy target for the Russians, right? That's exactly what saying Haitian migrants eating dogs is about, disinformation. BS to distract you from what actually matters. Again, these are not legitimate questions. Every authority around the community says there's nothing to it. There are no reports of missing pets. There are no reports of squatting or looting or any of these things. Here was the best they could get.
And it's nothing but immigrants over there. And I don't even want to seem like I'm coming down on the immigrants because it's the people that's bringing them down here. Because wherever they're at, that's what they're used to, bro. They're in the park grabbing up ducks by their neck and cutting their head off and walking off with them and eating them. Only reason I even went on here and said something about it is because somebody told me they walking from the school and a Haitian almost ran into them.
All right, so we see a picture of what appears to be a brown-skinned man, I guess he could be Haitian, carrying what looks like a couple of Canada geese walking down the street. Here's my personal opinion on that, okay? Good. I hate those things. They're a menace where I live. They're an invasive species. They're certainly not pets, okay? And maybe, just maybe, Maybe that guy said, I don't want to come down on immigrants. Yeah, but you did. So let's look at it for why, okay? Maybe you could look at it a different way, okay? Instead of looking at these guys as, wow, can you believe this is the kind of people they are, that they just steal geese from a pond? Maybe you could flip it, okay? Maybe they're not monsters. Maybe it's really screwed up that this is what they have to do to get food as invitees in America. Oh, but what they're doing is a crime. They commit a lot of crime. I reject the idea that migrants, legal or illegally here, are the root of our crime problem. No statistics back that up that aren't poached, all right, and twisted and perverted. And I reject the idea that, well, but Chris, one is too many because they're not even supposed to be here. Look, that plays on your sympathies. Here's my problem with it, okay? Be consistent. Be consistent, because we don't do the one is too many on any other crime. Certainly not school shootings, certainly not the mentally ill that don't get help, like what we're chasing around in Kentucky right now. Okay? All the fentanyl, all the opioids, all the rapes, all the people who are allowed to beat the system and be out there and kill our kids. But one is never too many with that. But with migrants it is. Why? Politics of advantage between two parties trying to figure out which one is worse. Okay? And by the way, they're treating this as new, like I said, just to hurt Harris right now. Haitians have been going to Springfield. Refugees have been going with TPS all over this country for years. Now, here's the real story, all right? I had to get those 5 minutes out of the way because that's the state of play, and I want to shoot it down in favor of this. Springfield, Ohio is a real story. The locals are right to be stressed and worried about what's happening there. Springfield is a metaphor for the tale of two cities in this country. You know why the Haitians are in Springfield? Because the city wanted the funding that came with them. Because the place is in dire straits and needs people, especially skilled workers. Springfield, Ohio is America. And not just middle America by location, Rust Belt, Ohio. There are Springfields all over this country in similar states of relative distress. Population, about 60 grand. Puts them in the top couple dozen population centers in major states, right? Ohio, I think, is the 7th largest state, 11, almost 12 million people, okay? What do you see in the Springfields all over this country? Higher employment than the national average. Higher, what is the real metric? Not unemployment. Underemployment. What is that? People who now need multiple jobs to cobble together the hours and pay they used to get from one. Lower income, bigger disparity in proportionate education advantage, meaning how many people get that GED, how many people get to trade school, how many people get into secondary school. Fentanyl, opioid overdoses, higher. Notable lack of skilled labor. That's why it's attractive to migrants. That's why the people there are stressed. And these politicians are giving them a boogeyman. They're giving them someone to blame it on. And it's the wrong person. Trump won that county, Clark County, Springfield, Ohio, 2016 and 2020. It was a lot closer in 2020. And things did not get better for folks while he was there. And nobody's talking about why. The trades, skilled workers, bringing back our artisan class, finding ways to get employers to do more than sneak people across the border, but build their worker base with people here. They don't want to talk about any of those things about why Springfield isn't doing as well as these other places. Instead, they want to debate whether Haitians are eating dogs. And I'm telling you, both sides prefer this state of play. Shame on the right. They created this trope. Okay? Haitians are eating dogs. Man, that's otherizing. That's ugly stuff. And you don't have to be a second-generation person here like me. You don't have to have been raised by a father who you know was treated as an other by people. You don't have to be that. We've graduated to whiteness. We're lucky in America. Italian Americans are just white Americans now. Okay? Great. Great. We're a function of privilege. Good for us. Not everybody's where we are. This Haitian dog thing is a metaphor for the distractions in our politics. In a real place that deserves real attention, that is reflected all over this country. And neither of these sides, and I know you're going to get mad at me, and you're going to say, no, Trump has plans. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. Oh, Harris does. No, she doesn't. She just put them up on her website, and there's more talk about Project 2025 than there is about how to make anything better. Just go look at it. Do not take my word for it. Tomorrow night should be the night that this BS stops once and for all. I know debates are usually more heat than light. I know. And they don't usually change polls. I know. I believe this one's going to be different. Why? First of all, debate took out Biden, along with Pelosi and the other Democrats who pushed him out. Yes, but the debate mattered. Okay, right? Pretty clear argument. This debate could determine what ground this election is fought on. If this is a straight grievance play, a vote on who's the most pissed off, I believe it's Trump's race to lose. I keep telling you that. But if Harris is able to make it about which one of us seems at least a little bit likely to do something about what we all know is wrong in this country, she could swing independents and win this race. But there is a reason that Harris's new plans on her site are overweighted with Project 2025 versus ideas for making us better. Okay? And she gave you her approach to going at Trump in her latest interview. Take a look.
You look at what Donald Trump has done in the past, what his plan is, Project 2025. I encourage people to go to Google and look it up, what it would do to take us backward versus moving us forward. He plays from this really old and tired playbook, right, where there's no floor for him in terms of how low he will go. And we should be prepared for that. We should be prepared for the fact that he is not burdened by telling the truth. He tends to fight for himself, not for the American people. And I think that's going to come out during the course of the debate.
Look, I get it. Trump sucks. I don't think the anyone but Trump vote is enough. Not for independents. And I don't think they're going to buy Project 2025 as a boogeyman. Look, Trump's got problems with that. Almost like over a third of his proposals are echoes of what's in Project 2025. I just don't think that they're about the end of democracy, but that's for you to decide, okay? And you see them playing with her on the other side. That's why she's got to be a communist. Socialist isn't enough anymore, right? And what else is she doing as a communist? Oh, she was trying to bring in all these new people to vote for her, like these Haitians. That's the state of play. And Trump knows how to do that in a debate. We'll see how Harris does. I think she's handled herself well. I've been on a stage with her before, seen her work on her feet. We saw her in the debates early on. You know, she still had to get out of the race, but she was okay. But nobody who has done with this debate, Trump will have set the record. I think Ron, my senior producer, was just telling me he's tied at 6 with Obama for the most debates in a general election. This one will put him over the top. He knows what he's doing and he's consistent. Watch.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell. Chris, that was the worst part of Obama.
Let me ask my question.
Well, I'll ask Joe. The individual mandate was the most unpopular aspect of Obamacare. I got rid of it.
I'd like you
and we will protect people with
President, I'm the moderator of this debate, and I would like you to let me ask my question.
I guess I'm debating you, not him, but that's okay. I'm not surprised.
I'm going to fix it because I agree with you. Premiums have gotten too high, co-pays, deductibles per slot that the Obamacare approach was to take. And like I say, 20 million people now have health insurance. What we want to do is to replenish the Social Security Trust Fund.
Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me.
I still think that was one of the low moments in our collective history. Trump and Biden, that's the best that America could do. Now, tomorrow matters. It's about getting us to a better place, right? And it could set the tone for the rest of this race. And it should be about the real problems in Springfield, Ohio, and the Springfields all over this country, not BS boogeyman issues that kind of try to get people to be more afraid of one side than the other. And it sure as hell shouldn't be about who's eating our pets. So let's bring in better minds from the left and right. You got Amisha Cross, former comms team member for Obama, of course. Dave Bossy, famous from the world of Trump and Trump campaigns, and a big, legit conservative as well. And representing the reasonable, El Rey, Geraldo Rivera. It is good to have one and all. So the state of play tomorrow night, first of all, am I crazy and tomorrow night is just another debate and we'll just keep going? Or do we believe it could be a major moment? Everybody on the same page? More or less?
I think it's a huge moment.
Silence? Okay, good. All right, so Geraldo's with me. Silence from you two guys? I'll take it, Geraldo. So let me get their reasons for why. Dave, tomorrow night, big thing. Is your guy going to come out and prove that he's better or just that she's worse?
Well, it's a big night for Kamala Harris is what it is. This is the first time she's going to be on a stage for all the American people to see. She's been hiding. You take Joe Biden's basement strategy of 2020 and this is on steroids. The mainstream media is culpable for not asking her any tough questions. Tomorrow night, we're going to see her on a debate stage, and we're going to see what she has to say about her open border as the borders are. We're going to see about a broken economy and inflation out of control and high interest rates. We're going to see about the job, the cooking the books on the jobs numbers that just came out last week. We're going to see a lot of things. There's going to be a lot of questions that Kamala Harris is going to have to answer for the very first time, and it's very important for her to do incredibly well because we know Donald Trump is going to be steady and smooth on his feet because, as you said in your opening, he's done this a few times.
You did not hear me say he would be steady or smooth. I've said he's done this a lot, and we know what he does. Amisha, what do you see in the opportunity?
You just showed all the clips of him being
I showed the clips. I didn't think he was being smooth or anything like what you said.
He won those debates.
That's what you said.
Trump
not what the poll said.
Amisha, go ahead. Trump has clowned multiple times, and he has a very unique way of debating. I think that it plays to Vice President Harris's favor that she has had multiple people who he's debated before in her room during prep. She's also seen all the tapes. What we know is that the campaign is going to push towards trying to get under Donald Trump's skin. Her being a black woman is one thing that gets under his skin, and she doesn't even have to say anything. But beyond that, I think that the ceiling to clear is a whole lot higher for Kamala Harris than it ever will be for Donald Trump. So she's got to, one, create the narrative about herself. There's still a lot of Americans who are asking the question, who is Kamala Harris? And in addition to that, she's got to also point out the things that he's done that are problematic for Americans. Specifically, right now, we're hearing all the conversations about tariffs, and we know that that's going to raise the cost for your average American. In addition to that, his reproductive rights stances that continue to flip-flop, as well as Project 2025. But moreover, she has to define her own policy goals and her own policy strategies. And I think that she's very capable of doing both.
Hold on, I'll come back to you, Dave, but hold on one second. I want to bring in Geraldo. I want to bring in Geraldo, Dave, then I'll come back to you. I promise. You know everybody gets time here. Geraldo, you heard what I was saying off the top, channeling a lot of what you've taught me over the years about the politics of people when it comes to immigration. And, of course, you're living in Ohio now. You know the realities of Springfield, and the least of their problems is Haitian migrants eating their dogs. How do you think that kind of projects onto what tomorrow night's about?
Well, I think tomorrow night, just very briefly, I think Kamala, the stakes are much higher for her because the surveys, the polls, the 538, Nat Silver, she has plateaued. Whatever rocket boost she had initially has leveled off, maybe even dropped a tiny, tiny bit according to insufficient polling, but it is an alarming news item for her. So the stakes could not be higher for her. And to side with immigrants for her is going to be a very, very difficult thing. I must say I was alarmed. I was shocked when I saw that dude carrying the two two geese. I didn't think there was any basis at all for the absolute racist canard that J.D. Vance was pushing. It's a very emotional topic. I've written a couple of books about it. It's a lived experience in other ways. Springfield is a community, as you point out, 60,000 people. There's now 20,000 Haitians, all in recent years. You can't change a community that profoundly without having, some rough spots. And it's one thing to talk, or you look at the Rio Grande. It's one thing to talk about humanity and humanitarian approach to immigration. It's another thing when you're in the Springfield, Ohio, and for whatever reasons, whether you're sick of working for minimum wage or you have an opioid abuse problem, whatever it is, you don't want to work for minimum wage at the Honda plant or the Dole plant, which is the reasons that manufacturing boom in that town is why the Haitians are there in the first place.
Well, they have skilled labor.
And they are in Springfield mostly legal.
Yeah.
They are mostly
TPS.
legal. They have temporary protected status, as you point out. They are not illegal aliens. They are refugees, legal refugees. They work hard. They have tremendous enterprise. Anyone who's ever been to a West Indy parade knows how hard the energy, the work. I think that Kamala's got to have the best day of her life tomorrow night.
Well, look, it's probably her last best chance to take him on toe-to-toe. Dave, I don't know if you were able to appreciate what Geraldo just did there. When he called what J.D. Vance was doing a canard, I don't speak French, but I think that's the French word for duck, and the guy was carrying 2 Canadian geese. That was genius you just observed there. Yeah. And I don't even think he knows he did it. Dave Bossy, what's your take on what tomorrow night will be about?
Well, Kamala Harris is the incumbent. She owns this horrendous, chaotic administration's terrible record on every issue that the Americans care about, whether it is the open border problem, whether it is the crime problem, whether it is our education and healthcare problems. She owns it, whether it's our foreign policy and the economic problems that every American feels in their pocketbook every day. She's the incumbent. The polling shows that the American people want a change agent, and the American people feel Donald Trump is that change agent. She is not going to be able to stop that tomorrow night, and she's going to have to prove that she is not part of this incompetent administration. She's going to have to distance herself from this incompetence at the same time as trying to not push it away too far, because she can't alienate the Hamas wing of the Democrat Party.
The Hamas wing. Amisha, put a button on it.
This administration has had sizable wins, and I think that has to be recognized. We're talking about the infrastructure package. We're talking about ensuring that there was a lower cost of prescription drugs, specifically things like insulin. We're talking about student debt relief. There are so many things that she stands by that came out of this administration. There are certain things when it comes to economics, specifically looking at price gouging and things like that and housing costs, that she is addressing in real time. And I think that those things matter. But she is not going to totally eradicate a record that has some of the most seismic victories for Americans since the Franklin Delano Roosevelt years.
I'll tell you what, you know what I want to see? I want to see Trump argue it as well as you did, Bossy, and I want to see Harris argue it as well as you do. I'm tired of the proxies and being better than the actual candidates that we've been putting out. I appreciate you guys making the case for us. Geraldo, as always, thank you for the context and perspective. Appreciate all of you. Dave Bossy, Amisha Cross, El Rey. Thank you. 4 minutes, 5 seconds. Coming up, back in November. Now, look, I have been slow on this story. I'm still slow on this story. Okay, one of our guests will tell me that's because I'm slow in the head and he sees it a different way. Back in November, feds took the phone of New York City Mayor Eric Adams. I'd never heard of anything like that before. And I said at the time, they better come up with something and fast. And they really haven't about him. But this investigation is now seen as being the most top-down investigation of the New York City Police Department in history. The FBI has raided the homes of at least top aides, 8 of them, 8 top aides. And now we're hearing the commissioner may be days from resigning because of this. What does this mean for the mayor? Next. Now, in New York City, there is a major federal corruption probe. We really haven't seen one like it in my lifetime in terms of a top-down investigation surrounding Mayor Eric Adams himself. According to multiple reports, the police commissioner will resign in coming days after the FBI raided his home last week. Now, again, remember, a raid is not proof. An indictment is not proof. Indictment is a set of allegations. The expression "you can indict a ham sandwich" exists for a reason. The probable cause standard that you need for an indictment is the lowest level we have in our criminal justice system. And yet, you got to ask yourself, why would the feds go after such big targets like this if they don't have anything? That's a compelling question. Reports say that the commissioner's twin brother, James, used his police connections to act as an illegal fixer for bars and nightclubs. But he's not just the only guy in the probe. Several members of the mayor's inner circle have had their homes raided, phones seized in recent months, but for different reasons. So you have 2 different investigations going on. Getting confusing, right? So let's go back and take a look at it. This all started in November, okay? FBI raided homes of Adams' top fundraiser. Last name is Suggs, S-U-G-G-S, and his longtime liaison to the Turkish community, Abasova. Turkish community, what's that about? A lot of businessmen, contractors from the Turkish community working in and around New York City. The feds are investigating whether Adams' campaign conspired with the Turkish government to illegally donate money to his campaign. You can't take foreign money, right? We learned that all during the Russia. And just days after the raids, the FBI seized the mayor's phones and devices outside this event. I'd never heard of anything like that before. Flash forward to February of this year, FBI raids the home of Adams' longtime liaison to the Asian American community. Greco was her last name. And she is under investigation for illegally raising money among that community, the Asian American community, for the campaign. So kind of parallel investigations, right? After that string of raids of the staff, this summer we learned that the mayor himself received a federal grand jury subpoena, along with members of his campaign. Preserve these documents, come in, you may have to talk to us. That's what they were asking. That brings us to last week, when Adams' closest advisors had their homes raided and phones seized by the FBI. The feds are also reportedly investigating a group of 3 extremely influential aides to the mayor known as the family, since they're all related. The FBI is reportedly investigating whether they illegally helped their brother Terrence, a government consultant, secure government contracts for his clients. So there is a lot of stink going on around the New York City mayor. There's no question about that. The question is, can they make the stink stick? Let's bring in former FBI Special Agent Stuart Kaplan and former New York City prosecutor Paul Callan. Paul, you were not here when Stu and I bet. I said to Stu, I was like, I don't know. And he's like, what do you mean you don't know? I've been doing this forever. I'm telling you, Adams has trouble. He's going to be indicted. I said, I don't know. I don't see it. We bet on it, and Kaplan's been feeling very good about it recently. Paul, do you share his enthusiasm, or is there a little bit of deference to this is just talk right now, not proof?
Well, I was kind of leaning in Stu's direction, but the more I looked at this case, yeah, they subpoenaed his cell phone with a search warrant. They had probable cause that there was evidence on it. But that's only because some of his top aides are under investigation. It doesn't mean that they're targeting him. And also, you say, I'm shocked. They take the mayor's cell phone. Well, you know something? Cell phones didn't even exist for most of New York mayoral history. And you have to go back and look at all of the prior mayoral investigations. Virtually every mayor has been investigated during his mayoralty. I think the only one I could find who wasn't, believe it or not, was Giuliani.
Yeah.
But the last time one was arrested, it was William Dwyer. Well, he wasn't arrested. He was about to be arrested, and he resigned the mayoralty.
That was a long time ago.
After that, you got to go back to 1932.
Yeah, this is a long time ago. This is unusual, Paul. We don't usually see this.
It's very unusual. Yeah, and you really need strong evidence to take down
But here's the flip.
mayor. I don't see it yet.
Here's the flip. This, to Stu's point, and I'll tee up the man himself. And by the way, I have Callan as a mentor for me. I have Stu on because he knows so much better. I bring you guys better minds. That's why I call him that. And Stu, I get what you're saying, but couldn't it be, and you can slap this aside, the mayor put guys around him he shouldn't have, who were doing things that the mayor wasn't a part of, but these guys were. So it'll be a political problem for him, not a prosecutorial one.
So I say this to you, Chris. First of all, you left out one thing on your flow chart. My understanding is the mayor now has, quote unquote, tested positive for COVID. If I was with the FBI, the U.S. Attorney's Office, that's a great ruse to get him to come and speak to me without anybody detecting him. So I'll just throw that out there to your viewers.
Sneaky.
Just
Fugazi COVID.
But let me, and Paul, is a colleague that I respect, and I will think that maybe I can change his direction by saying this. The FBI only brings in the IRS when they have been able to realize, in looking over bank records, that there's money laundering, there's tax evasion, that there's a flow of money for ill-gotten gains, meaning it's part and parcel of their investigation. And the fact that the IRS now is squarely in the center of this investigation, it now tells me that this is a play-to-pay corruption investigation where all things lead back, assuming I'm correct, to potentially the mayor. And I would find it
Stu, where is that? Just one question. Where is that connection to the mayor? I don't see that so far. I do see he surrounds himself with bad people, and some of them may have been taking money. But How does it connect to him, other than they call him up on his cell phone?
So, to your point, Paul, I don't minimize going and preparing an affidavit on behalf of a search warrant in the Southern District of New York, where the scrutiny used to be kind of mid-range and now it's off the charts, because these judges, and rightfully so, are somewhat intimidated by being criticized for the overuse and overapproval of intrusive things such as search warrants. And when you take someone's cell phone, it is one of the most intrusive things you can do other than entering into someone's home, because our cell phones, and here's where I think people need to understand. A cell phone is no longer a cell phone. A cell phone contains all of our worldly secrets, our text messages, our emails, our phone calls, our pictures, our communications, our passwords. And so I want to put that in front and center, how important that is to consider.
The only thing I'll leave us on this note is why, one, this is the job. They've got to make the case. Okay, we only know what they show. But guys around Adams say he may have flaws, but he's not a guy who's doing this for money. He's not a money guy. So we'll see what they can tie to him in that regard. Stu Kaplan, I appreciate your perspective. I take it under advisement. But we got to see what they can show. Paul Callan, thank you for the pushback. 4 minutes and 30 seconds to be continued. Yeah, I saw him. He's saying he's getting ready to eat. They got to make the case. Got to make the case. That's the job. A major ruling today. Who did make a case, okay? The judge who's in charge of the Brian Kohberger, the Idaho murders, those 4 University of Idaho kids, they're going to switch venue, okay? The trial will not be held in the town where the murders were committed. The judge determined he can't get a fair trial there. So where can he? And was this the right decision? And what does it mean for the families of the victims? Travel time alone. Should that matter? Next. Brian Kohberger, the man accused of brutally stabbing to death 4 Idaho college students, got what people will say is a major win today. I see it as the administration of justice. Kohberger's attorneys argued last month that their client couldn't get a fair trial in the county where the murders took place. Why? Too small, everybody's too aware of it. They did polling that showed a very high saturation of suggested belief about the case. Today, the judge sided with that defense request, saying in part, the defense has met the rather low standard of demonstrating a reasonable likelihood that prejudicial news coverage will compromise fair trial in Latta County. Thus, the court will grant Kohberger's motion for change of venue for presumed prejudice. So now what? Where does it go? What does this mean for the fairness of the trial, but also the fairness to the families? Should that factor in? Here's somebody who says yes. Shannon Gray, attorney for victim Kaylee Gonsalvez's family. Counsel, thank you for joining us. What do you make of the decision?
Well, I mean, I think it was a decision that we kind of expected to a certain degree, but really the issue now is where the trial ends up. It could be Kootenai County, it could be Nez Perce County, it could be Ada County. So we're hopeful that it stays in a county that's close to Latah County, number one. And number two, it looks like Judge will no longer be presiding over the case, which I think the family finds beneficial. So
it's a mixed situation for them. What about their ability to go? How important is that to them, and how is that compromised depending on where they put the case?
Well, it's an incredible inconvenience, I think, to the entire case if you go move to Ada County. It's 6 hours away. You know, it's a complete different world over there. It's the other side of the state, basically. And then you end up having to not make it a day trip. It ends up being you have to move over there for a month. You can't come back and forth. They have children they have to care for. They have family members that want to be over there. I mean, all of the witnesses, most of them are around Latah County. So it would be a massive inconvenience, I think, for the family, as well as the case if it was moved over to Ada.
You think this happens in June as scheduled?
We're hopeful. You know, we're hopeful that it does. If you believe what Judge said, that if he changes the venue, he doesn't expect the trial date to change, then we're going to take him for his word.
Right, except he's not in charge of it. Counsel, I appreciate you very much. Send our best to the family. We're not going to let them be forgotten in this. I know it happens in cases. You get a fascination with the accused all the time. We're going to keep a focus on the victims and their families. I promise you that. Take care.
Thanks so much.
All right, let's bring in a couple of counsels now to kind of look at this from both perspectives. Defense attorney Randy Zellen, okay? Florida prosecutor Dave Ehrenberg. It's good to have you both, fellas. So look, this is a low bar, let's be honest. The problem with making this determination, Randy Zellen, I'll start with you, is, well, where is more fair? We're not talking about moving it from California to Maine. We're talking about the same state that's saturated by the same media, no?
You are, but you have a much bigger jury pool somewhere else, let's say in Boise. Boise, we know, can handle a high-profile murder trial as it did with the Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow murder trials. But it's interesting. You talk about a low bar. The judge may have called it a low bar, but let's face it, I can count on one hand the number of times that a motion for a change of venue has been granted before the trial as opposed to appellate issue, the conviction is vacated because venue should have been changed.
Right. Oh, fine. But Dave, let's talk about why, though. They don't usually do it because in the modern age, the idea that you're going to find a place where nobody knows about it. I mean, even the defense's own polling, are you familiar with 5 or more of the 9 media items that we showed you? In the county where it was 80%. It was 65% in Ada County, which is the big county, Boise, Idaho, with these other cases that we've heard about that are going on right now. But everything else is, everything's over 50-50. Everything's 2 and 3. It's not like you're going to go to a different place and get a really different reality, are you?
No, and, Chris, you don't have to find jurors who have never heard of the case. You don't need blank vessels.
Right.
You just have to have jurors who are going to set aside their biases and just follow the evidence in the law. You could do it in Moscow, just like you can do it in Boise. And also, I think this decision rewards the defense attorneys for doing that poll they did that sort of poisoned the well a little bit. The judge admonished them for that, and now they sort of get what they want. So I feel bad for the victims' families, but as Randy said, this is pretty much what you would have expected.
Let's see what happens with the calendar, especially with this judge no longer on it. It's really going to be the speedy trial nature of it that's, I think, is going to tick most people off. So let's see what happens with that. Randy Zellen, thank you very much. Dave Ehrenberg, appreciate you. Good to see you both. 3 minutes and 45 seconds. We're 24 hours from the first and maybe the only debate between Trump and Harris. What do you want to hear? Your turn to have your say. 844-968-7720. Let's get after it. All right, it's time to have your say. Who do you got, Dusty?
Hello, Christopher. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Will from Nortonville, Kentucky.
What's your question?
Will.
Yes.
What's your question?
Yes. Hello, Chris. I'm currently in the legal immigration process trying to get my wife over to the state. And my question was just that which candidate do you think would actually be better for reforming the legal immigration process?
Well, first questions first. Does your wife eat pets?
She does not eat pets.
All right, good. I got to check that box because I've been hearing a lot about that lately, because that's what those people do. And we have to be straight about it. Kind of weird, not like the rest of us. Eat your dog, remember that. So, look, here's the problem. And I am not a cynic, okay? I am an optimist. I believe in us. I believe in us getting to a better place, which is why I spend the energy on the criticism. This problem works better for both parties than any solution. That's why it's never been fixed. Obama had Congress, didn't do it. It was a big deal in that election also, okay? Clinton did it a little bit. He had a big mandate also. Trump didn't do it. He just played with that wall, not the rule changes that they wanted first. I believe that you can't do this on one side because you won't even get the dreamers done. But if I were voting on this issue about who's going to fix it, that's why I'd be watching tomorrow night. Listen to what they both say. And if they're just doing this, I don't know how Harris can win that debate if she just blames Trump, because she definitely is on the bad administration side of the last few years. So the onus is on her to say how she can make it better. But that's why you got to watch tomorrow night. This question is going to be fleshed out there. That I believe to a certainty. That's what I'm watching for. Next.
Next, we're going to go to Mike from New York City.
Mike, what's your question?
Chris, maybe you can tell us why, tell us as working people, why should we care anymore when we have already had decades of both Republicans and Democrats in office and nothing truly meaningful ever changes to level inequality? Why should we care when we have policies like Citizens United resulting in corporations making double-digit billions in profits despite supposed inflation, while wages remain completely flat? They pay next to nothing in taxes, including their CEOs. Secretaries pay a higher percentage. I am in awe at the level of arrogance on the part of these candidates that believe we're just going to continue to fall to their poetic and sympathetic speeches filled with vague promises that never lead to meeting change that levels the playing field.
That's because
to me, it does feel rigged.
But that's because you do. You do fall for it. You do allow opposition to be a legitimate position. You do vote on the basis of which one is worse. And we sleep on our agency in this society. The beautiful thing about America is that everything that's ever mattered here has been bottom up. So until you demand change, I'm not talking about proletariat revolt or any of that Marxist nonsense. What I'm talking about is that things will change when enough of you are sick enough of it that you just don't want a disruptor in chief, because you tried it with Trump, and it's not like he changed our reality, right? He just changed our media dialogue and how crass our language can be. But I'm with you on the problems. Okay? Citizens United especially. I mean, the most disgusting money in our business is the legal money. So it's a problem. But until you start going on social media and instead of engaging in this stuff with the two parties, you say, I'm out. I'm out. I'm not in either of your camps. Both teams suck, and I want better. At a minimum, you start looking at your team, whichever one you go with most often, and saying, you got to do better than this. You got to do, but you got to talk about Springfield, Ohio, for the problems that are going on there. Not this BS about who's eating geese. Next.
Next, and quickly, is going to be Janice from Massachusetts.
Janice, what's your question?
Hi, I want to know why you think this is a good idea. I was inspired by Micro a few months ago promoting vocational tech schools. The idea is immigrants and unemployed people, say from Ohio, where young people can learn how to build solar panels, wind turbines. Harris is campaigning on expanding the affordable middle-class housing, and it's a win-win situation. 40-hour-a-week union-paying jobs, and immigrants can contribute to improving the country.
Hey, listen, I think you should be making jobs. I think the artisan class has to be replenished. For every 5 who are retiring, they're replaced by 2. And it doesn't have to just be green energy jobs, although the Infrastructure Act did a lot of that. And remember, the red states got 2 out of every 3 green projects. So they bashed the green economy, and then they took the money in the infrastructure bill. Remember the hypocrisy of the game. So yes, get jobs. Have everybody add to the stew. That is the American dream. We'll be right back. I mean it when I say I think the debate matters tomorrow night. You also saw in those clips with Trump, well, I honestly believe you should have no moderators. I really believe the 2 candidates should stand up there like adults and you judge them as the same, and they just have this one topic. It's not like they're fact-checking or anything like that. I don't know what purpose the moderators serve, to be honest, anymore. It's all about fact-checking, and we do that watching the debate. But I wanted to get in here because I'm telling you, this Haitian migrants eats dog reminds me of the man bites dog stories, just stupid headlines that are clickbaits, that are pushing